Hello, Gareth Naylor, watercolor landscape artist, and we're doing a sea scene. Here we go, here's the original photo. And so this is from Spain, and we've got this big rocky mass here and some figures, and I like the composition. It's quite interesting. Now I did change the composition a bit because I thought this was too much here, too much empty space. So I brought this rocky mass down a little on my original picture. So first of all I did it like this, and then I thought that's wrong, and so I redrew it. I had to erase everything. So it does look a little bit messy, but always if you're drawing, no matter how good your drawing is, if the composition is wrong, erase it and start again. And you might need to add a few marks just to indicate where you need to redraw it. So with me, it went from being up here, this rocky mass, to here, and the bottom part about here. So I had to put those marks down, and then I erased the previous drawing and redrew it. Now normally I don't do a very careful drawing, but this time I really needed to get that right. Okay, so let's get on with this. The first thing I'm going to do is this rock, and I really want to keep this simple. The simpler it is, the more powerful it's going to be. So I'm using some yellow ochre, and here we go. So I'm using a bit thicker yellow ochre. I'm all out of burnt, well, I'm not all out, but I'm almost all out of burnt sienna. Have to buy some more. But it's a nice colour. Okay, and then back to yellow ochre down here. And if you get little dry brush effects, that's good, or little gaps. I haven't managed to do that, but there you go. And just continue. And doing things like this, I think they call it charging, which is when you go over a wet area you've painted with the same mix, well, the same pigment, but thicker mix. And it just adds that essential variety that you need. So even though I don't want this to be too complicated, you can get this subtle variety. Okay, looking for some kitchen roll tissue would be better. But this is all I've got. So I'm using a medium-sized bamboo brush for this. But a round brush would be okay too. Yep. So I hope you can see these little subtle variations. Yep, happy with that. And then over here. might even spray it a little. Just to give it a little bit of texture. And there we go. Now I need to let that dry, and then the next thing we're going to do is the most difficult part of all, the water. Okay, let's leave it to dry. Okay, now for the next part, and this is the really difficult part, adding all this water. So I think mostly we're going to be using cobalt blue, and one of the ways we're going to, how can I put it? The word that comes to mind is damage limitation, or just increasing our chances of success, right? That's it. So one of the ways we're going to increase our chances of success with this is to make a big mix. So the bigger your mix is, then the more likely that you're going to be successful with this. And that means a lot of paint. Okay, and then also I need to make my darker mix, and maybe I should make that now, to be honest. So I think I might have some phthalo blue in that later. And also I'm going to have ripples in the water. And so I'm going to use phthalo blue, alizarin crimson, and a touch of yellow ochre, which is already there. But let's add some more. Okay, make that maybe a bit bluer. And I think that will do. Okay, so I think I need more of this, and maybe a touch of this blue, darker blue. Okay, a lot more water. Okay, I think I'm ready. I'm a bit nervous. Okay, so keep it nice and wet. The paper is slightly tilted. As long as it's wet, we're safe. So far, not so bad. But when we get to these figures, that's when we're going to start to have a lot of trouble. And maybe I shouldn't even try to go round them. Yeah, I'm still thinking about that. Should I just go over them? Well, at least their heads. So this is like we're now into danger zone, because this is where we're getting caught up with details, and there's a big risk we're going to slow down so much that this paint is going to dry out and we're going to get a hard edge. So just re-wet everything as much as possible to try and stop that happening. Because when I re-wet above, not completely, but the paint is running down and it's keeping stuff lower down, wet still. Okay, now I need to switch to a smaller brush. And I cannot stress enough that although you're doing something very detailed, this all needs to be done quickly. And in my original painting, I did a better arrangement of the rocks because I had them just connected here. And that was better because it meant less of this messing around trying to paint between them. And you know what? I think I'm just going to paint over that figure. That could be a big mistake, but I don't think so. And we'll see what happens. Okay, and I'm even going to spray this now. Because if it's still quite wet, you shouldn't get that speckled effect. And maybe those little tiny bits of white, maybe they're okay, but I got rid of them anyway. Okay, there we go. And so now, and can you see how it's dried off in that corner there? And we're getting a line. And I'm just going to re-wet that again because I don't like that. And now I'm adding some darker blue. Like that. Wow. And I have perhaps overdone it. But I'm kind of glad about that because sometimes you do have to overdo it a bit because it teaches you like the limits or what you can achieve, you know. So one of the problems that beginners have, I'm darkening the bottom bit by the way, one of the problems the beginners have is they're so careful, which I can understand, I totally get it. But if you're really careful, it's like now this is pure water I'm using here. If you're really careful, then one of the problems with that is you're kind of operating within narrow limits, which sounds good in a way. It's like being careful, but it's almost like you're flying the plane on autopilot. And of course, in a way, you're not really going to learn like fully what you can do. You have to take things to the extreme, even though, oh, this has dried off, this bit here. You have to take things to the extremes. You have to push and not be afraid of screwing up the painting. I have to stress that because it's not a fun experience sometimes, you know, especially when you're doing a video. It's not fun to sometimes push the painting too far just to see what happens, to kind of operate in that scientific kind of frame of like, I wonder what happens if I'll do this. Oh no, what a disaster, I've screwed up the painting. But why you have to do that is that's how you really begin to understand the medium. and what it can achieve. Yeah, we try so very hard to, and for good reason, to be careful, right? Tread very carefully, right? In life, in social interactions, we try to tread very carefully, right? Because we don't want to be a jerk, and we don't want to go around upsetting people and stuff like that. And we're the same in painting, we don't want to paint something that is so stupid that everybody's just going to laugh at us. You know what I mean? We're going to try to paint a lovely little picture, but really, in reality, need to really push it a lot. I think anyway, and it becomes fun. It's not with everything. If you've got your own style, but then even then, if you're not like a professional, and already you've got your own style, I would say maybe lose it for a while and experiment and push it, because like I heard another artist say, you'll never lose your uniqueness. It's like almost you can't get away from it. But if you're not too careful, you can make it very limited. And if you do something very different, then it will slowly get incorporated back into your style, and that will make it even more interesting. And I've convinced myself by what I just said. I think that's true. Take everything I say with a pinch of salt. You have to work it out for yourself. These are just my thoughts, yeah. That's what I would say to myself, though. I would say to myself, look, if you learn something very different, then you're going to eventually incorporate that into your normal style, hopefully. And it's just going to make it even more exciting, more interesting than before, more unique. Okay, there we go. Not too bad, but my original was better. I can't show it to you, but basically why this is so after all what I said is because the marks I'm adding now, they're not dissolving into the paint underneath, because the paint underneath has dried, and in my original painting the paint underneath was a bit wetter and they dissolved and it looked really beautiful. Just a minute, I'll try and get it. Okay, stick these earphones in. So this is what I'm talking about. So look at these marks, they're very soft. And the reason is the paint underneath was wetter and they just dissolved into it. Here, it wasn't so wet and the marks just didn't dissolve. We've got a few nice dry brush effects, and you can do this with your finger and soften it. That works fairly well. And it's not too bad. It's actually not too bad. It's passable. But that, whoops, goodness me. But that's better. I prefer that. So there you go. Okay, let's leave this to dry. Just softening some of these marks with my finger. And it's quite nice. It's quite nice. I haven't made any super big mistakes. Leave it to dry and then let's work on the shadows on the rocks, in the rocks. On the rocks, in the rocks? No idea. Okay, see you in a minute. Okay, now I'm going to do the rocks. So, and the shadows on the rocks. So, really I need some burnt sienna for this, I think. Maybe burnt umber will be okay. So partly burnt sienna and burnt umber, and maybe mix some of this with it. Now the biggest problem here is that less is more. I'm sure you've heard of that, and it's completely true. The only problem is we always want to add more. So trying to leave a few white gaps here. There are some areas where mostly it's all in shade. Like a lot of this is in shade, and it gets darker as we go down. That variety in the shadows is very important. Okay. So I don't copy my original painting, well, photograph, exactly. Ooh. Okay. So this is not looking too bad. Yeah. I'm using my fingernail there. Not very successfully, but there you go. It worked well enough. And then I'm going to do this one over here. And where he is, I guess I can wipe that out a bit. Okay, and then I need some of this phthalo blue, burnt umber, sort of a greeny colour. And just suggesting reflections. Yeah. There we go. And this is the difficult bit now. Less is more. So here, try and do very, very few marks, because then this will glow. It's one of the things we tend to do is kill our lights. By just basically painting too much shadow. I think you always have to do less shadow than you think. That's the tricky thing. It seems so obvious. Okay, and then let's go dark. Just check then that the video was on. I just had this feeling, is the video actually on? Have I just, well, I haven't wasted my time because I've got a nice painting, but okay, yeah, I like it, but okay, here we go. Maybe a bad idea. Few more marks. So say one thing, do another. Okay, I think that will do. Okay, yes, like it. Although, maybe here, this isn't so bad because this is already a shaded area. So, I think I can get away with this. Yeah, that's safe. And I might be able to clean this up a little bit. Yeah, there. Oh, nice. Oh, great. And then this, with a touch of this. So it's just burnt umber, phthalo blue. Don't you love it when it's just simple? And then, to be honest, there's almost no reflection. But I'm going to add some because I think it helps make it look like it's not just stuck on. It feels like it's more blending into the painting, this rock. Okay, there we go. And then what I'm going to do, because this figure is white, so we're thinking about figures now. White, oh dear. Blue, Mr. Blue. So Mr. Blue, this is not like the answer. Like, this is not, I think, going to work brilliantly. But I think if we can remove some of this blue paint, then when we paint all these figures, this one is not going to look darker. But it could be, it could be like, a guy with darker skin colour, or he could even have, be browner because he's been in the sun longer. So, and that's not such a bad idea actually, because one of the problems I still have as an artist after 20 years, one of my biggest weaknesses actually is my figures, because there's not enough variety in my figures. So like if you look at these figures here, I mean, they all look, well, they're all thin. So I think at least one fat figure would look more interesting, lot more interesting. Also maybe one a bit shorter, another a bit taller. And it scares me to do that actually, because I just think it's going to look weird. It's just not going to look right, like I painted it wrong. And so that's my hang up about that. And also if I paint like a fat figure, I mean, like it's difficult because there's fat and there's fat. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like there's people who are like a bit fat, then there's people who are really quite fat, but they've still got, like a very definite form. I mean, sometimes you don't know if it's fat or even muscle. And then there's people who are really, like have lost basically basic definition, those people, like who have like a big belly, those guys who have beer bellies, actually need to add more figures like that. I like that shape. I think it's a very interesting shape, and it would be good for my paintings for variety, to be honest. But it can be very difficult to do that. It is for me a bit challenging, but I will bit by bit do that. And of course all of these are men, because I find men much easier to paint than women, to be honest. And also, to be honest, I don't want to paint, like sexy women or whatever, women with boobs or whatever. I don't know why that is. But I just don't really want to paint them, because I don't know, just I don't want it to look rude or a bit too over the top, you know what I mean? So I find painting guys very, very, I don't know, safe, and yeah, something like that anyway. So anyway, at some point I will have to start painting women a bit more. Okay, so look, we did manage to get rid of some of the blue there. So let's leave this to dry, and then let's go on and paint the figures. Okay, time for the figures. So really, I'm going to do these in 2 stages. And the first one is, okay, here we go. Phthalo blue, burnt umber, bit of red, and let's do the heads. So I always do the heads first. This figure is actually a woman, and she's wearing a hat. Quite an interesting figure actually. But like I said before, I just paint what I know. So that's a weak point. So in future paintings, I'm really going to push myself to do different kinds of figures, yeah. Okay, there we go. So let's do the trunks. Okay, so maybe blue's not the best color, right? They are wearing blue trunks, but it's just going to be a bit boring, right? Because okay, maybe this turquoise, cobalt turquoise blue. Just call it turquoise, right? Turquoise. What a beautiful name. Don't you think that's a beautiful name? Turquoise. I love that name. Basically, greeny blue. But a bit nicer than just that sound. So, yeah. Here we go. I like it. Like it. Looks good. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so next. I need a very different colour. What? Red. I think red is a bit too much. Goodness me, I am so like, what would you call it? Like Victorian or something. I don't want to paint a guy with red trunks. But here we go. And he's going to have to be my focal point, right? Even though I think this figure is better. I like his posture. I like the way his arms are like this, and the torso, it's kind of at an angle. I think that looks really good. That should really be my focal point, but at least that's the best figure. But this space here is where you want your focal point, either here, this corner, this corner, this corner, or this corner. Normally, yeah, normally, not always. Bright red, look at that, that sticks out. Aka pants, that's what they'd call it in Japanese. Mr. Red Pants, oh my goodness. Okay, and then let's do another one, this guy here. So this guy here, maybe do white. So I'm getting the titanium white out, and here we go. Should be a bit grey actually, shouldn't it? Or just mix it with some of this blue. Yeah, that could be a bit of a mistake, because it's not going to separate a lot, is it, from the water? So I think big mistake there. So let's just get rid of that and think again. Okay, have a rethink. Okay, shall we do green? I've got some cobalt green. I like this colour. I think this is a very interesting colour. It's really minty green, isn't it? Yeah, we can really see that sticks out, right? That's what we want. There we go. Yeah, I don't like those trunks. They need to be a bit, I don't know, just, they look too like just stuck on, right? Okay, so there we go. Now let's do the skin stuff, and let's just continue with this. Normally I'd let it dry, but because we're using video, then have to continue, because it's just lots of little videos to upload. It takes ages. So get some of this white and some of this burnt umber and mix it up. Yeah, it's too white. Shall we add a bit of orange, brilliant orange. See what happens there. Ooh, yeah, it's interesting. Some of this. Yeah, yeah, I like it. Okay, and that looks pretty good, doesn't it? You can see straight away that that looks like a skin colour. Okay. Yeah, I like his posture. Okay, and then let's do this guy. And I should do his face, but it's still a bit wet. Maybe. Okay. Keep it simple. So these arms, they start off wide and they get narrow, and that's it basically. Okay. Oh yeah. It's still a bit wet, but okay, leave it a little bit longer. Then let's do his legs. So start off a bit wide, around the knee get thin, and then here come out a little bit, and there we go. Yeah, don't like that, but we can get rid of some of that. Just do that. Okay, so he needs a bit more hair. Looks like his top of his head's been chopped off. Okay, so this is what happens when you paint figures. Okay, let's do his body like that, main torso, then like that. Okay, and then this bit here. Actually could make this guy a bit fatter, possibly. Okay, and then let's do his face. Oh yeah. Oh, but I keep doing their ears too high up. Goodness me. I keep doing their ears about eyebrow level rather than there. Okay. Okay, got ya. Okay, and then let's do this guy. Oh, great stuff. And I should do him. His face, I mean. Okay. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Okay. Ooh, that's a bit ugly. That black. Dark. Okay, let's try. clean it up again. Do it again. Oh, yes. Okay. Have to make his trunks a bit bigger. So you actually see me doing something very rare, which is actually suggesting that I do fat figures, paint slightly fatter people, only a bit fat, and then saying, oh, I'll do it one day. But look, I did it. And he looks slightly fat, right? And he looks quite thin. So I did that. And he looks good, but he needs more hair. He definitely needs more hair. Okay. It's a bit too watery. Okay. Oh yeah, that's nice. And he needs a bit more sculpting around his head, because he's looking a bit like that goblin or whatever out of Lord of the Rings. Goodness me, got to make him look prettier. His face. Here we go. Yeah, that's it. I think that's not too bad. Yeah, looks good. Looks very good. Okay, so let's leave that to dry, and then what we're going to do is some shadows on the figures. But overall, it's looking good. Maybe I need a bit of blue here for the sea. So let's do this very carefully. Okay, and then maybe here as well. And what you can do is just do that. This is cheating, by the way. I don't like cheating, but I'm cheating here. And this is pure water now. And you see the way I'm just blending that in? You have to be careful though, because if your water bucket is dirty, you're going to be able to see the mark here when it dries. But if it's fairly clean, you should be able to get away with it. So you see how I've done that? It's a little bit better, right? But don't fiddle around with it too much like that. Hopefully that will work. Okay, so let's leave that to dry. Okay, now we're going to do the shadows on the figures. And this skin colour is actually already quite dark. But I don't think too dark. At first I thought too dark. So I thought when I make a shadow over the top, I'm going to make it too dark. It's really going to look a bit strange. But I actually think maybe not too dark. So I'm going to make a purple mix, but I'm going to have a lot of red in that mix. And that will mean that it's not quite so overpowering shadow. Ooh. Okay, here we go then. Just have a think about where the sun is coming from. Goodness me. Yeah. So I think the sun is coming from over here. Okay. So in that case, yep. Ooh. I want to leave that there without shadow. There we go. Come down here and then do these trunks, and then this bit here. Okay, it looks very dark at the moment, but it will become lighter. Okay, then this figure is quite tricky. So he's catching a lot of light. And there's going to be some shadow here from his arm. Maybe like that. And his legs maybe a bit too thin. And maybe making it a bit bluer now. Okay, there we go. And maybe I need to add a little bit of shadow there. Okay, and then this figure, and this figure is interesting because he's facing the light, so he's going to be quite lit up by the sun. But there's going to be some shadow here and here. Okay, and then this figure here, I'm going to do most of him in shadow. Especially this part. Okay, and then I need to do the water. And once again, keep it simple. Phthalo blue and burnt umber. Oh yeah. Okay, there we go. Oh, that looks quite strong, doesn't it? Okay, and then let's do this figure in the water. Okay. Maybe that looks a bit too green. Okay. Yeah. Maybe that's too strong. Let it dry a little bit. And then this figure here. Wow, he's very thin. Yeah, that will do. And then this figure here. So it's like these little dashes. Sometimes use your finger to blend these marks into the paper. Oh yeah, now I've managed to fade it. Not too bad, but here, that looks green. That just looks green. We can't have that. So I'm just gonna stick some red in there. And hopefully, oh yeah. Okay, maybe that's a bit better. Okay, I think we've done, yeah. And now, when this is dry, I'm going to do the highlights. And I think I'm going to risk it. Okay, so I need now my liner brush, or basically a thin brush. A thin brush. A brush with like this. Thin tip. And then titanium white. Take it directly from the tube. And then here we go with the highlights. I could actually try and mix this up and do a kind of skin colour. That could be fun actually. Mix it up with a bit of yellow ochre. Could be good. And I'm doing it quite thick there, because to get these thick and thins is interesting. Okay, I think that works. Okay, and then this figure. I really need to get the shape of his head right. And these shoulders, you get these beautiful, slightly flat bit there where the shoulder is. It's really beautiful. So I'm glad I captured that. And you know, like the collarbone coming down like that, the clavicle or whatever it's called. And then side of his body just there. And then these trunks. And then here, this leg. That's, yeah, I think it's passable. Oh, it's a bit thick. Okay, I think he looks quite good though. It's pretty cool. Okay, and then this guy. This guy looks pretty tough. Yeah, and then face is always difficult, but I'm going to try and add a touch of detail to his face. And once again, bit of a flat part here, then a thin line there, and then bright white there. Not too bad. Yeah, I think that's nice. You really have to get your figures right, because that's, people really know well about figures and shapes, and they look at them a lot. And so if you get your figures wrong, then people will know very quickly that your painting is wrong. Oh, what I'm going to do here is, you know, like on the back of your shoulders, you've got like this, it's almost like a flat plane like that. I think that looks quite nice. You know, like when you look at the body as a series of like planes or angles, it becomes very exciting to paint. Again, I think I like that. So I think we've done it. Oh, fantastic. So I'm quite happy with this painting. Please have a go. And I think for me, one of the most exciting things about this painting is managing to keep most of this area light. And I think because of that, this painting really has pop. It really, bam. So I'm so happy about that. I think the figures are pretty good. Not too happy with that there. Just try and soften that a bit, that green. Well, also I'm not too happy with that. So I have to try and make a nice purple. So when you finish your paintings, you always have to have a good look and think, is it what's good, what isn't so good, can I correct it? And if you can correct it, then do so. So this assessment thing is very, very important. Okay, and then here, let's soften this. And this could be fun because maybe we can just give him a little bit of a belly. Not sure if that's working. Like that. Yeah. This line here is too hard, right? Just need to soften that. And then maybe now it's passable. No. I'm going to use some of this pink. So this is where you have to be careful. You don't want to do too much of this messing around with stuff. Okay. Yeah, I think he's okay. Maybe a bit of a highlight there on his arm. So okay, this does happen. You always get a figure that's tricky. Well, no, not always, but it does happen sometimes. And it's too white up here now, so just correct that a bit. Soften that. Okay, and then his arm looks a bit strange now, this arm. So that arm is okay, and that's okay, but this, okay, here we go. I mean, that, like that, and then maybe, can I do this? Yeah, I think that will work. But I think what I have to do is just, with his chest, just make that a bit whiter and lighter. Okay, here we go. So like that. Yeah. And then blend it in. And then underneath, a bit darker. There we go. Yeah, I think that works better now. Oh yeah, that looks very good. I think that looks very real. Maybe more real than any of the other figures. Okay, so that's good. So finished. So there you go. And I'm quite happy with the figures. I'm especially happy that I could do such different figures, because suddenly it looks real. They don't all look like clones, which is one of my biggest problems. My figures just look like clones rather than unique individuals. And that's it. Have a go and happy painting. And this is my third painting in my attempt to do 50 paintings or watercolor sketches of Spain. Bye for now.